This should be pushing through. Yes, it looks like it is. Very good. What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Very nice to be here in our weekly live stream for the Flux Explorers program. Um, and as usual, it's really good to be here. It's nice to see better to see without sunglasses. I'll keep on for a bit. It's good to be here, sharing this experience with all of you. I'm really excited to see the amount of people that have signed up for this so far. We've got 31 people that have signed for up. That's really, really good, exceeding expectations already. And as we continue with the next steps, I imagine that more people are going to be joining. If you know people that are interested, feel free to invite them. Let them know that they can join the Flux Explorers program at any time. All right. In this process leading up to KubeCon. As I mentioned last week, we will be having an event in early November, just before KubeCon starts, where you will get an opportunity to share your thoughts, your learnings with the Kubernetes community, with the Flux community, about the things that you've learned throughout the course of this program. So that being said, we've got quite a bit of stuff that we got to get through today, and I've got slides that I will be sharing with you. All these will be shared after the live stream as well. So for anybody that's watching this a little bit late, that's not a problem. If you want to follow along with the slides, I will drop the link here in the chat. So you can keep those open while we discuss them as a group. But they're pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy to go through, and we want to make this, as always, as accessible as possible, so it's easy to understand, easy to follow along with, and that you can achieve some really cool results in the process. That being said, I'm going to take my sunglasses off. I should probably be wearing real glasses because my eyesight with age is not getting better as I stand on the cusp of 40. But I will share my screen. I'll share my screen. Let's see. I need to do it this way. Here we go. Cool. So I'm going to share my screen. You should be able to see my screen now. And we're good. All right. So I think that should be okay. Let me stop actually real quick. Yes. All right. There we go. Okay, cool. So taking a look at this, right? We've got our slides. If at any point in time during the live stream you have any questions, feel free to drop them here in the chat. I'm going to be happy to respond to them accordingly. So don't be shy. And if not, you can always contact me on LinkedIn or on the CNCF Slack. So in terms of what we're going to be talking about today, it's about creating engaging content on LinkedIn, right? So the Explorers program is very straightforward. You consume resources in the form of the podcast series that we're doing on Flux in Cube FM, right? That's the podcast that I run. And you will be watching those episodes and basically learning from them and then sharing the things that you learn with others so that they can learn as well, right? That's the idea here is, contagious energy around learning in public, on helping other people get involved with open source, making it more accessible, making it inviting and welcoming, right? That's what we're going for here. So in terms of who am I? Just in case you weren't in the previous live stream, my name is Bart Farrell. I'm a CNCF ambassador. I've been one since 2021. I'm also the host of Cube FM. And so that means I get to talk to lots of different people in the Kubernetes world, lots and lots of different people. We have podcasts that come out every single week, as well as different interviews, technical interviews, and announcement interviews that we do. We're scheduling a lot of interviews for KubeCon coming up in November in Atlanta. So always very busy talking to different people in the Kubernetes community. And so that's me. Also, much love and huge shout out to Control Plane for supporting this effort to make learning about Flux as accessible and welcoming and open to everybody in the world. So much love to them. They're wonderful people. And if you watched episode 1, the making of Flux, you definitely got to see the CEO of Control Plane. His name is Andrew Martin. He's a wonderful friend and a dear friend of mine. So yeah, he's a great person. We'll definitely be having him on one of these webinars in the coming weeks. So you will get a chance to meet with him and interact with him and ask him questions as well. Super cool guy. So in terms of the agenda for today, it's pretty straightforward. Your homework was to watch episode 1, all right? Was to watch episode 1. And in case you didn't watch episode 1, we can drop the link to that here. Let's see. I'll drop the link to that here in the chat, just in case you didn't watch it. You definitely should have watched it. When I say watch, you can also listen to it as well. It's not it's not like something that can only be consumed in a visual format. You can listen to the podcast anywhere you like. It's on all major podcast platforms. But like I said, your homework for this week was to consume episode 1. You also have access to the transcript, so you can check that out too. If there are specific terms you want to look for, there are links that are shared in the transcript as well. So your job was to write down your doubts and the things that you didn't know in a document, in a Google Doc, and you'll be using that for every single episode that you're going to be watching, right? Not just for the first one, but for all the ones that we'll be looking at. So you can just have a continuous list of questions that you want to be writing there. Then you'll be sharing them in the tracker, all right? So the tracker, I will drop the link to that as well. Everyone should have access to it. If you don't have access to it, please let me know. But the tracker is right here. And so the tracker is where you can put the link to your Google Docs so people can see the questions that you got, the answers that you got, the things that you shared. And then it's very important as well too, so we can find each other's LinkedIn posts, all right? So if we look in the tracker, we'll see where people have shared links, then I can go see that they've posted. This is your way of letting us know that you've done the work in order to get the certificate at the end of this program, but more importantly, to be tracking your knowledge and so that other people can interact with it. Today, as promised, we are going to be speaking about good content, right? And what makes good content? What are the necessary ingredients to create something of interest that people will consume and enjoy, right? Then we'll be speaking about creating the post that you're going to be writing on LinkedIn, which can be a post. It can also be a video, depending if you want to write or if you want to make a video, and the next steps, right? So let's dive in. Why do most LinkedIn posts underperform? So let's think about this. If you're new to LinkedIn, that's totally okay. If you're a LinkedIn veteran, maybe you already know. But why do most LinkedIn posts underperform? There are a few different reasons. And I sort of left a teaser to this in the promo video that I created for this live stream. But there are a lot of problems where people are starting with I and not starting with you, right? So when we're thinking about ourselves and we're not thinking enough about our audience, all right? So you really need to double down on your audience. Who is your audience, right? Think about a profile. If you had to create like a psychological profile or a socio-demographic profile of the people that you're interacting with. Who are they, all right? Are they in their 20s? Are they in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s? What did they probably study? Where are they working? All those different kinds of questions that you can answer about them, that will help you create content that better suits their needs, all right? All of us have different needs. We have different frustrations. We have different pain points. We have different objectives. And we're trying to meet those things. We're trying to get rid of the pain points. We're trying to get rid of the sources of stress. We're trying to reach the objectives that we have in mind. Are we trying to get our first job in tech? Are we trying to get a better job? Are we trying to get a salary increase? What is it that we're trying to do right now? And based on that, what kind of content are we going to be consuming? You need to put yourselves in that mindset so that when you're creating content, you're going to be serving the audience that you're working with, right? So when you want to be doubling down on your audience, who are they? What's hard for them this week? What is it about your post that's going to help them get this much closer to their goals and their objectives, right? You got to be starting with the idea of why should they care, okay? So things that you're going to do to make them care is translating complexity. So for a total beginner, maybe something like these podcast episodes that we're sharing, it might go over their heads because they might think, oh, this is really complicated. So whether it's that or anything else, you want to be taking something and put it into your own words to translate it, giving them a practical benefit. Why should they care? If you watch this will get you one step closer to becoming an open source contributor. This will get you insights into a graduated CNCF project that's called Flux. And then you can explain what it does, right? And empathy over ego, super important. Like I said, it's not about you, it's about them, right? So starting with the I mentality, oh, it's all about me, 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 me. Don't do that, right? You want to be there to serve. You want to be there to make life easier for other people. And you're going to do that by creating good content. Good. And hello, Colleen. Good morning. Andrew Martin is here. And hello, Ebenezer. Very good. Very nice of you joining from all the way from Kenya. And I'm joining here from in Bilbao. Good. Sorry. It's really important to look back at the chat every now and again. So yeah, I'm in Bilbao in the north of Spain. Thank you all very much for checking in. It's very nice of you. So, like I said, you really want to be basing on your audience, really want to be removing it from yourself and thinking about their needs. So your post, and whether it's about this Flux, Explorers program or anything else, right? I'm not saying it's just about the Flux Explorers program. I'm saying in general, the stuff that you want to put out there should be empathy first and not ego first, right? It needs to be thinking about what is it that I'm doing? I'm giving you my time. I'm giving you my information. I'm giving you my insights. Don't worry. I've gone out and done the work, and I'm going to make it really easy for you, all right? I took this complex thing. So because if we just share a link and say, watch this episode, it's 22 minutes. That's kind of a big ask, right? We want to make it easier for people to say like, hey, people in my audience, I understand what your objectives are, and I'm going to make it really easy for you. Here's a quick summary of that thing that I just watched that's 22 minutes long, and here's why you should do the same thing too, right? Explaining what's in it for them. Why should they care? These are the things you want to be thinking about, okay? Good. Let's keep moving. So I'm sure everybody's probably using ChatGPT or some kind of, LLM for something, all right? For a lot of different things, whether it's Claude, whether it's Gemini, that's up to you. So when I say ChatGPT, it could easily be something else, but I'm just using this as an example. It's a helper, not a heaper, all right? When I say that, I mean like you can tell when someone has put zero or thought or originality into something and it just copied and pasted everything from ChatGPT, right? It smells like it, right? We see a lot of emojis. We see something that's way too excited. It doesn't feel like it's been written by a person who's actually taken the time to share genuine insights, right? So don't, I insist, not just for this exercise, but in general, don't overuse it, right? Use it to help. It's a great source of help, right? It's a great source of help to check your grammar, to check things like that. But removing yourself completely from the equation, that's not good, right? And that removes the empathy, the original voice that's behind it, the tone, the genuine aspect of your experience, and that's very valuable to your audience, okay? And like I said, nowadays in 2025, we can generally tell when something smells a lot like ChatGPT, so be careful with that. Use it to outline, use it to summarize, but make sure that you're, varying your tone so it doesn't just sound robotic or overly enthusiastic all the time. You still need to bring the examples, right? So the concrete things that you have learned, right? That's why you're writing down the things you didn't understand in the document, right? That's why you're doing that. So you can share, these are the things that I didn't get or the things that I found challenging. And here's how I found the answer, things like that. Because if you have those problems, it's probably there's probably a good chance that your audience also suffered from the same difficulties. So you're saying, hey, this is how I did it. That's probably going to be pretty helpful for them. Because you just say like, oh, of course, I understood everything. Well, maybe it's true depending on your audience and your level of experience. Maybe it's not, right? So that genuine honesty and transparency and vulnerability around saying, you know what, there are things in there that I had no idea what GitOps was. I had no idea what the CNCF was. I didn't know what a graduated project was. I didn't know who Andrew Martin was, whatever, right? Those things are okay. This is a way of sharing that knowledge with your audience and making it just that much easier for them, okay? So like I said, just don't over rely on ChatGPT or anything AI related. Now, any good kind of content is going to follow this acronym of IDA, right? You've got to get people's attention, right? So we will talk about the hook. Hook is very important, but it cannot be clickbait, right? You cannot be promising like, want to win $1 million, and then there's nothing about $1 million, right? So if we promise something in the hook, we have to then speak about it later on. We can't just use a hook to like try to really just get people's attention and then mislead them, it's like bait and switch where we're telling them one thing and then we're not actually delivering it. We do not want to do that, right? So like I said, but we do need to get their attention. So get someone's attention quickly by asking a question, by sharing some kind of a fact, like a percentage or a number or a data point, something of that nature. Those things can be helpful. So yeah, like I said, that's what we want to be thinking about there, right? Like I said, first we get their attention, then we develop that into interest, then we make them think about, ooh, now this actually really sounds interesting, and I would like to maybe do something, or I'm intrigued, I want to know more. And then the last part is action, right? So when we built up that interest and it's turned into desire, that people are now craving something, they're thinking about the next step. Well, don't worry, I'm going to give you the next step. It's right here, and that's your CTA. That's your call to action. You're going to see CTA a lot, right? So like I said, hook. Remember, people are on their phones. People are in public transportation. We think about all the different places where you might see LinkedIn. You could be in a lot of different places. It could be at home on at work on your computer, but it can very much be on your phone. And so if you're scrolling, think about what are the things that make you stop, right? When you're scrolling, because we're all scrolling all the time, right? So is it a picture? Is it a video? Is it a meme? Is it a GIF? Based on the things that, in your circle, in your audience, what are the things that are actually going to get people to stop, right? What are going to be the things that are going to get them to care? Like I said, whether for the Flux Explorers program or for anything, I just want you to be thinking about this. We're consuming content all the time. I want you to be more proactive when you do it, about thinking about, why did this make me stop? What were the words that were used? What was the framing and the hook that really got my attention? So then, in terms of writing a post, because some of you may want to make a video, we now look at the body, right? So you have an idea and then 3 bullet points or a short story. Don't overwhelm your audience with too much information. Let your content breathe, right? Your hook, generally speaking, should be relatively short, like a maximum of like 25 words. And, sometimes, less is more. You can kind of bridge that into a little bit. But when I say let it breathe, have spaces in between things. So if we just see like one chunk of information, it gets a little bit overwhelming. It's more tiring. So have those spaces really help out a lot. And bullet points can help do that too. So yeah, that's a way to bullet points, and we don't have to write full sentences. We just highlight the main ideas. We make it more digestible for the person who's on the other side, our audience. Okay. And then, like I said, the CTA question or next step. So questions, we'll talk about this more in comments and LinkedIn in terms of engagement. Asking questions so that then people comment is really good, because the more comments you get, the more visibility LinkedIn's going to give you, right? LinkedIn likes posts or content that generate conversations, right? So things that, are debates, or what about you, or the things that you didn't understand, things like that. Those things are going to be very helpful there. So yes, like I said, that's something else you'll definitely want to be keeping in mind. Good. And now, and then, like I said, links only if useful. In this case, you're almost guaranteed to going to be using links, because you're always going to be linking it back to the episode that you watched, all right? Or these live streams, or whatever it is that's going to be, all right? So like I said, those, in this case, for the Flux Explorers program, you're just about always going to be using links, but it doesn't mean you're always going to be using links in every post that you put out there on LinkedIn or social media, all right? But for the intent, for the purposes of this exercise in the Flux Explorers program, you're definitely going to be doing it, so keep it in mind, all right? Cool. So thinking about an example, a hook. Many people think that building open source projects is simple. All right, fine. But then we want to be contrasting that and saying, well, it actually couldn't be further from the truth. And now I'm going to explain about how I watch this episode, about the making of Flux, and I speak about the origins of the project and all the different things that I've learned in the episode. This is just an example. I'm not saying you have to use it, right? You could start out with a question saying, how easy is it to build an open source project? Or how do you build an open source project? Whatever. Or if you have some data point, 85% of open source projects fail. Boom. Why? And then we get into the details of the episode. If that's the approach that you want to take, that makes sense for you and your audience. All right. Let's not forget our audience. They're very important. Then, next lines after that, you're going to have the body of your post. So here we can say a mistake that people make, and here's an example of that mistake, and then a fix. All right. So once again, all the stuff that you consume in the episode, what were the mistakes that were made, of getting things wrong? What could you provide some examples? It's very important to provide examples so people know that you've done your homework and that they can reference something specific. Be like, okay, they're not just talking about a mistake. They're giving me a concrete example that I can relate to and understand. And then a fix, right? So something that can be done to improve it, right? So we see the problem and we see a solution. Then the last part for a call to action, what would you add? What's blocking you now? Thinking about this, all right, for your audience. What's going to be useful for them there, right? So what's the next step? Is it, in this case, like I said, for what you're doing right now, it's going to be, want to know more about how they fixed it? Check out the episode, right? So watch episode 1 of the Flux docuseries. If it's something else, it's going to be something else. But thinking about, what's going to be getting people to the next step, make it really easy for them. I always explain it this way. It's like taking a child for a walk, right? You're going to take them by the hand, and like, this is what I'm going to show you. Make it really easy for them, right? We're all very busy. We're all scrolling a lot. We don't want to have to think too much, right? Make it really simple for us. Then, like I said, links. In this case, for Flux Explorers program, you definitely want to include links. You're going to want to include links. For other stuff, maybe not. Maybe it's just a question, right? And you're just trying to get a conversation started in the comments. Okay, cool. So like I said, comments are super important. You can leave the first comment on your post for links. All right. Generally speaking, like I said, so you say, I'll leave the link in the comments. Okay. Meaning that maybe you'll want to have a carousel of images of screenshots, or you can have something showing the Flux the Flux Explorers program, whatever. That's totally up to you. All right. By default, when you put a link in LinkedIn, it will show a preview image, but then you can post that without actually including a link, and you can put it in the comments. So then that way it gets things started. You can also ask a question, whatever, that's up to you. All right. But in terms of asking questions, ask a question that that people have an opinion about, and based on your audience, like asking, like, have you ever heard about Flux? Are people going to answer that in the comments? Probably not, right? Or saying, if you have, how about this? Have you ever tried an open source project? If so, mention it in the comments. Or if you've never tried an open source project, say why not. What's blocking you, or what are you worried about? Things like that, where it's, once again, it depends on your audience. Are they seasoned veterans with 10 years of DevOps experience, or are they total beginners who just want to get their feet wet in this process, to learn more about how open source projects work, and maybe that they want to start becoming a contributor in the next 6 months to a year, right? So you understand your audience better than I do, right? That's you're the expert. You are the experts there, right? So thinking about the questions that your audience will realistically respond to, that's what you want to do, right? And then another thing to make it even easier, for the purposes of this exercise, you have the other posts listed in the tracker that you can see from other people that are in the Explorers program, right? So it's very, very easy. It's very, very easy to do this. You're gonna go check out the post that your fellow explorers have written, and you can write comments. Comments is basic as thanks so much for sharing. Or you can ask a question to the author there, like which part did you find most difficult? These are really easy ways to start conversations, right? So we have a significant advantage here in the program because we know what people are writing about, and we also know that what kind of things they might be able to answer. Thanks so much for sharing. I also watched the episode myself. Which parts did you find to be most challenging, or what was the part that was trickiest for you to understand? That's a really easy question to ask. Okay, I think I actually may go back and do that actually on those of you who posted already. So like I said, these are things that are good to do. All right, so liking their stuff, but comments are really the most valuable thing that you can do to increase visibility in LinkedIn. Now, for those of you who want to make a video, all right, same thing. Instead of a hook in text form, you need to have a hook in visual form. Some of you may want to appear on camera, others may not want to. But if you don't want to appear on camera, then your slide that appears first, you got to get their attention. So you're going to ask that question, and your voice is going to be there as well. Designed for silent viewing, think about scrolling. People are going to have the volume off. So that's why captions are going to be really important so that people can see what's on there. LinkedIn will have automatic captions. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. It could be more recommendable that when you record your voice that you get the transcript and then you plug those in as captions or subtitles so that people can see them immediately when they're coming on screen. Keep it short. All right, your video should not be longer than 2 minutes because people just won't watch it, right? Unless you're really, really good at making videos, and that's great if you are, and if you want to take the time and effort and like make the effort to do that, that's fine. But for these intents and purposes, just keep it simple. It should just be like a bit of a teaser about like, hey, same thing. Want to know how to get involved in an open source project, or have you ever worked with an open source project? Well, here's one that I looked at. It's called Flux, and if you want to know the story of it, this is this video or this podcast that I listened to, and you can go check it out too, right? 30 seconds is more than enough. Said hook, so 1 point or a demo. In this case, you're not going to be demoing Flux, but a demo in the sense of showing like this is where it is. You can do a screen recording of the YouTube channel to say show people like this is where you're going to go. This is how easy it is. Here's where the transcript is. You can follow along, things like that, and just sort of like an advertisement of what you just done. In terms of format, when you record it, like the actual formatting, if you're using CapCut or Adobe Premiere or Final Cut or whatever you're using to edit, it's better for it to be square vertical because more and more people are using LinkedIn on their phones. So LinkedIn favors those kind of videos, or people just respond to them better in terms of the format. So that's something to keep in mind there too. Than doing like a rectangular style format, right? So you want to keep that in mind. Good. Length. So for posts, generally around 1,300 to 1,600 characters. I think the LinkedIn limit is like 3,000 or something like that. You don't need to write that much, right? It's not necessary to do that. Less is more. For these kinds of posts, it's just not going to be necessary to do that. Videos, like I said, 2 minutes max. If you're doing a post, carousel images generally help get more engagement. So if you can have 3 or 4, you could get screenshots of each one of the speakers. So, there's me. I'm not important for this, but you have Andrew Martin, you have Chris Anichek, and you have Alexis Richardson in episode 1, and you could take a screenshot of each one of them to show that. You could have the Flux logo, you could have the Flux Explorers program slide, things like that in carousel format. LinkedIn favors that content, so you could do that. If not, you could just use the preview image of the video. You could take a clip from the video, you could download the entire YouTube video and take a clip that you found to be the most interesting. That's totally up to you, right? In terms of how you want to present this. Good. So in terms of a sort of summary, the major problems that we see in LinkedIn posts that underperform, a lack of empathy, right? Just trying to show off like, hey, I'm super cool and I watch this podcast episode. Is that really something that's going to care about? Probably not, right? Empathize with people. What is your audience suffering from? It's a lack of skills. It's a lack of money. It's a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of network. It's a lack of experience with open source projects. What's it going to be, right? Offer, don't ask, right? You want to be giving people something. This is a summary of the podcast episode that I watched, and here's how you can learn in the same way I did. That's up to you, right? Hashtags. Some people overly use hashtags. It seems like more and more it's not super helpful to do that. And I personally prefer to see nice, clean language that's not being stuffed with hashtags as like a sort of cheap way to position them. If you have genuinely interesting things to share, you shouldn't be depending on hashtags. ChatGPT will not save your life. Understand your audience's pain point will, right? Really double down on this. This goes back to point number one in terms of empathy and also offering, not asking. Please do that, right? Number 5, art and science. Something we didn't mention already is that there's going to be trial and error with your audience of seeing what's going to perform best. So don't kill yourself if you don't get the results that you'd like to. We just want you to try this, see how your audience responds, and then you can iterate the next time around. So don't worry about it if you're like super hopeful that you're going to get 5,000 likes and 400 comments. Hopefully, but it's okay. Like I said, this is a process. So we all have to find our voice. We all have to find the things that resonate most with our audience. Got to have a hook, but it's got to be honest, right? Do not try to like trap people in with some kind of, bait and switch thing. What's a hook that responds to the pain points that they're dealing with the things that they're trying to improve in their lives in terms of their objectives? Number 7, the call to action should be super clear. In this case, it couldn't be easier. Join the Explorers program, right? DM Bart if you still want to get involved because it's not too late. Watch episode 1 and share your thoughts, whatever, that's up to you. But make it super, super easy for people to do that. So, I'll leave the link in the comments, things like that. As I said previously, you want to be taking them for a walk, making it really easy. And then consistency is key. Just appearing once on LinkedIn, probably not going to do very much in terms of, getting your audience to respond. I'm not telling you need to post every day, right? I'm not saying that because I don't want people running around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to figure out, that they have to be posting something all the time. You post when it makes sense for you to share something of value with your audience, right? That's how you decide your frequency. If you think that's going to be once a week, if it's once every 2 weeks, it's okay. But the main thing here is consistency. In the Flux Explorers program, you will have that consistency because we're doing this at a regular cadence, right? You're doing episode 1 this week. You'll be doing episode 2 next week, right? Because episode 2 drops next week, right? So it's going to be pretty straightforward in terms of the next steps, all right? Speaking of which, so next steps, you're going to write your post or create your video. I want you to tag me. I want you to tag the speakers. So Chris Anichek, Andrew Martin, and Alexis Richardson. Also tag Control Plate, also tag Cube FM, all right, so people know where to go to check out Cube FM content, whether it's the Flux docuseries or the regular episodes that we have coming out every single week, and also Control Plane, because they're the wonderful folks that are supporting this initiative. Use relevant links, right? Don't stuff your post with a bunch of links. Use the links that are relevant. And once again, whether it's for this or anything else in your LinkedIn content creation lives, please always keep it relevant, thinking about what is going to benefit the person who's seeing the post or watching the video. Share the link to your post in the tracker so that we can like it, so we can comment on it, so we can say how wonderful you are, so we can repost it to our network. So please do that. And also, like I said, it's really easy. Go into the tracker, find the things that other people have written, click on their posts, and like I said, comment, like, all that sort of stuff. Episode 2 drops next week, so you can expect that probably by Monday or Tuesday. And that way we'll be repeating the same process. When that comes out, we will do another live stream on Friday, as we'll be doing live streams every single Friday from now until early November. So you can expect that. If you have any questions, you can leave them here in the chat. You can contact me on LinkedIn. You can find me in the CNCF Slack. If you're not in the CNCF Slack also, please do so, because eventually we'll be speaking about that in a future live stream when we talk more about how eventually you can get involved in the Flux project if you're interested in contributing. There's no rush. Remember, this is not a sprint. This is not a race. You don't need to feel like you're in any rush from this. So yeah, like I said, that's not a problem. That's not a problem at all. Don't feel like there's any pressure to do that. So yeah, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them here and I can respond here. If not, I'd be more than happy to continue the conversation on LinkedIn, on the CNCF Slack. I think it's pretty straightforward what we're asking you to do. We're not expecting perfection. We're expecting is enthusiasm, willingness to try, not being afraid to put yourself out there. and I will send you all an invite for next week's webinar. So we'll see each other more or less at the same time next week on Friday to continue the conversation, to applaud you and encourage you as you progress through the Flux Explorers program, and of course answer any questions that you might have. So like I said, feel free to reach out at any point in time if you're not sure what you need to do. I will share, this is just a follow-up of the slides from last week, so everything's going to be in the same place. Should be relatively easy to find, and I hope all of you have a wonderful weekend. It's great to see people joining from so many different countries. I think we got at least like 6 countries represented here, and that's super cool. So yeah,